Well, good day, YouTube, and welcome to another episode of the Albino Rhino Beer Review. Today, you have the Rhino, and we're looking at a beer from Multinational, my Homer brewery. It's my Homer brewery, not because I give it great marks or anything, but because it's legitimately like a 5 to 10 minute walk from my door. We're looking at one of their single hop beers. Only 32 people have tapped this in, and it's sitting at a 3.26 out of 5 on Untapped. This is Multinational's 5% alcohol Sultana. Now, if you go to this beer on Untapped, it tells you what notes you should be picking up from the Sultana hops, and it says you should get notes of pineapple, pine, citrus, herbal hints, oak, and perhaps very subtle cinnamon. Perhaps. The greatest thing I love about the write-ups about these one-hop beers from Multinational is instead of just what they do is they tell you what the grower says the hops should taste like. And they're usually using lesser-known hops. They're not using... It's not like they're like, here's a Nelson Sauvignon, and it should have... It's usually stuff that isn't used as widely. Like, there are things that do get used, but they're not used as widely. And what they'll say is, like, this is what the grower says, and then usually the brewer that posts it will be like, I don't know if I actually get all that, but that's what they say should be in there. And again, hops can have a very large variation of flavors depending on when they went into the boil, how much of them there are, how long, if you dry hop or wet hop. There's so many different variables to the flavor of hops. So it's really funny to listen to the blanket of flavors that one hop will give you, because it's a lot like when you listen to a lot of beer reviewers. You'll listen to them, even sometimes I'll listen to myself, and I'm like, where the fuck did I get that? Right? Or stuff like that. My wife, sometimes I'll talk about what I'm tasting, and she's like, how the fuck do you get... So, I mean, you listen to us, and it's bad enough, but go and listen to a sommelier talk about wine, or somebody doing like cognac tastings or anything, and the myriad of flavors that they come up with. A lot of times it feels like they're pulling it out of their ass. Whether or not they really are, I don't know. Am I pulling my flavors out of my ass? I don't think so, but maybe I am. But when you read the spectrum of flavors that these hop growers will say these hops are supposed to have, you're like, where the fuck are you getting that? And how many different ways did you make a hop tea over and over again at every different boil length, at every different temperature? Like, one of the... But I'm digressing. We need to get into the beer. You don't get to see me pour it. You just have to trust that I'm pouring it. That's the way it is. We need to have trust with each other. Okay. So, fairly clear. Almost crystal clear. But a brassy gold color. Looks really nice. Slightly off-white head. If I put these down, it's even more so. Oh, yeah. Looks good. Does. As that head is dissipating, we'll sniff it out of the can first. Herbal hints? Sure, I get like cut grass. Maybe a tiny touch of nutmeg and clove. Do I get oak? Not really. Do I get pineapple? Okay, yeah. What were the other ones in there? So I'm picking up pineapple. I'm picking up herbal notes. It said perhaps subtle cinnamon. No. Pine. Pine and citrus. There is something in there that is very resinous that I guess you could say was a pine note. I don't know if I would say I'm smelling any citrus beyond a pineapple. But that's out of the can. Out of the glass. Pretty close to the same thing. Now here's the big thing. What does this one hop pale ale actually taste like? Well, boys and girls, we're going to find out, aren't we? Oh, yes, we are! Cheers. Okay. That pine is there. That pine is there. Oh. Oh, that's almost... That kind of reminds me of like a Centennial, Simcoe, and... Centennial, Simcoe, and Nelson Sauvin all mixed together. Because there is some pininess. There is that pineapple note. And there is an almost clovey cut grass spiciness on the back end. Yeah, this one hop is making this beer taste like the original like American IPAs and everything that you used to get when craft beer was first coming out back in the early 2000s. Back when things were just getting big in the world of craft beer, like well, not even the early 2000s, I guess the early 2010s. Like the IPAs you were getting like 12 years ago, this one hop is giving off the flavors that you were getting from the 3 hops that were being used for that. You know, your big hops were Centennial, Cascade, Simcoe to an extent, Challenger, Magnum, and I mean those were mostly used just for bittering. But like this type of, all these type of like old world hops, it's like you took the handful that would go into the majority of pale ales and stuff and created one hop to replace all those. I mean, it's efficient. I'll give it that. Now, these are hop varieties that I am not the biggest fan of. They are hop varieties that, for the most part, I could live without. I remember when I started drinking them being craft beers, that those were the hop varieties I hated. And I can't say I hate them now, but I'm not happy with them. Sorry, my wife was just asking me what my son's flight number is. Ooh, his flight is 2 hours away from landing. Okay. So, yeah, it's really like I'm drinking like Tank House from Mill Street and stuff from 2009, 2010, 2000, like that's what this reminds me of. It reminds me of the old school pale ales that came out when craft beer was really starting to explode. I don't mind it, but I can't say that I love it. I mean, I give that Sultana this seems to be a great efficient hop. But how many people go for this type of flavor profile anymore? Even the IPAs and pale ales of today are more juicy, maybe dank, maybe, but the bitter just seems to be slowly going to the wayside for more flavorful beers. And I can't say I'm against that. I actually like that idea. There's nothing wrong with it, but again, it's just there's nothing special about it, if you know what I mean. It's not a hop I would be excited about. Maybe as a home brewer and I'm trying to save some money, but how much does this hop cost versus those hops? But how plentiful are the old hops versus the new hops, right? Even Chinook, right? Chinook there. How I don't see that really in any recipes anymore. This kind of tastes like there's some in there. So I mean, does this become the what you go to make the older beers, or to just get a higher alpha acid and oh, you know what? If I drank this when this beer review started, it would probably get a 2 out of 10. At this point, I think it's worth a 6. I don't think I'd ever buy a Sultana again, because it is too bitter on the back end for me. It's not the way I like my beers. But I could see some people like this. But I could also see a lot of current craft beer drinkers not like this, because it is the flavor profile of the beginning. The beginning. At the beginning of times, your beer tasted like pine and citrus and herbs. And then we awoke. We awoke to the flavors of the fruity juiciness. And nothing was the same since. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so that's where I'd give it. It's not a bad beer. Cheers.